Jesus would have compassion, he would not judge, and he would act. And today I'm privileged to host a friend of ours, Pastor Mary, from Fortress Assembly, who has been acting and has expressed compassion towards the street families. So we'll be advancing that conversation. We invite you to share with us, comment, ask questions, and if you're struggling and you need help, please reach out to us. So Pastor Mary, karibu sana Convo.
Thank you, Frida, for having me at Convo. It's an honor.
Yeah, we are so honored to have you here.
I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, so I would like you to introduce yourself to us. Tell us who's Pastor Mary, what is she up to presently?
My name is Pastor Mary. I'm a pastor at Fortress Assembly. I'm a youth pastor.
Yeah.
And at Fortress Assembly, we have many ministry arms.
Yes.
One of them being the Imana Initiative, which is our humanitarian arm.
Yeah.
And this is where the street ministry was birthed during the COVID pandemic, whereby we were able to ask ourselves if this pandemic was hitting us who are able to work this much, how about those in the streets with no work, with no place to just fend for themselves. And this is how the street ministry was born, from a place of compassion, just to reach out to them and engage them and see what we are able to do to elevate where they were. Yes.
You know, one of the things that we found out at Convo, as we've done these mental health awareness campaigns, is that we need to reach out to the communities around us. And I think as the church, especially the church community, we are well equipped to deal with these cases at a community level more than any other community. So I think the work you're doing is great. You know, Bishop Jim keeps saying, this is what Jesus is doing, because Jesus is in you and in me.
Indeed, indeed.
So this is what he's doing, and we are privileged to have you here.
Thank you very much.
So I would like us to talk about, you know, this street family ministry and how it came about. You've mentioned that it came about during the season of COVID, when COVID hit us all. It was a global issue, so you guys thought of helping them, because if it was hitting us this hard, how about them? So how did you begin? Did you just like walk out to the street and you know, find a street kid and you're like, hey, come here, I want to help you? Or how did it begin?
So I think from a personal perspective, I've always been passionate about reaching out to people and guys who don't have a place to start. That has always been my passion. So from a young age, I would always be the person that just goes and says hi to the guys in the street, the beggars. So that was always me. So I always had a passion. I always had a passion for people living in the streets. And so the Imana Initiative, which is our humanitarian arm under Fortress, deals with marginalized people. And initially, Imana would deal with educating girls. And education was the big thing for Imana. So Imana has educated several girls up to high school and funded some of the food and pad drives around the country in very many counties. And so during the pandemic is when the issue of reaching out to the society came in. And we were just thinking about Kiambu being a county that has a big population, and therefore having a lot of street families. And we just thought that now that the COVID pandemic is here and people are reaching out for food, you know, people are under lockdown in the counties, and guys are not able to fend for themselves as they would. And we just thought how much more so the guys in the streets who don't have a place to stay. And this is where it was birthed, just from a place of compassion and wanting to reach out to alleviate the conditions of these guys living in the streets. So we thought we would be dealing with children per se, but we got to the street and realized these were actually families, established families in the street. And this is where now we had to come up with a strategy as the street ministry. So as a street ministry and Imana, we came up with the concern basket, whereby we would organize for food drives and just distribute food packages to people. Then we brought the hot kitchen, which now was to create a hot meal every week for the street families. And food now was our contact point to be able to reach them. And in our minds, we knew that this was not just it was not just about the food. It was a place for us to be able to reach out and get to know what can we do for them, how can we be able to shift the situations that they were in. Yes, so that is about the street ministry and how it came up.
Wow.
Yes.
It would be, I think it would be right to say that Imana Initiative is the hands of Jesus, you know, literally, because you're helping somebody who wouldn't know what to do if you didn't offer them that help. Yeah, so let's talk about now that when you went out to the streets, there's what you plan and what you find.
Of course.
So you would have a very good plan on paper, but when you get to the ground, you find things are different. You need to re-strategize, you know, and plus you're working with a very vulnerable group. So how did you go about them? You know, when you get to the ground, were they willing to accept the help? How did they perceive you guys, you know, coming to help them? And did they receive you well? Did they receive the help? Were they violent? Things like that.
It's a very interesting question. And also to note that Imana means God. So Imana Initiative is actually the God initiative.
Wow.
Yes, it is.
Amazing,
Yeah, so as you're putting it, it's true. There is what you envision.
Yes.
But this is a very sensitive issue.
Yes.
So us reaching out to the street families wasn't exactly what we envisioned. We were prepared. We had done our research. But of course, getting to the ground, first of all, you identify that there are very key things that come into play. We have the issue of getting these people to trust you, that you come with good intentions. So creating trust was something that we had to do. Trust is something we had to cultivate and earn from them. Coming from a place whereby they had been promised a lot and people who wanted to take advantage of their vulnerable situations for their own personal gain. So the issue of trust was something that we had to cultivate. Secondly, that would come to play is that these people have been exposed to a lot of negative behavior in the street, and so you will notice violence. I remember the first couple of times we went to feed them, and they would literally shove us for the food and disappear. Yes, that happened for 3 times. They would shove the food and disappear, and I remember just thinking, now we know how it is, and we are able to strategize and move ahead. But it wasn't something that deterred us. I think for us it was something for just familiarizing ourselves with the waters that we were getting into, and knowing that we had to brace ourselves. It wasn't going to be easy, but just as the Imana Initiative resembles, we just wanted to spread the love of God. That was major for us. Get to spread the love of God for these people to understand that we are here just to spread the love of God to you, and our main agenda is to see your lives transformed. Yes.
Amazing. You know, when I think about you guys doing that, giving them hot meals, and then I think about our theme for the year, for the mental health awareness campaign, I realized that maybe street families have bigger problems than mental health, because you wouldn't tell me to go for therapy when I'm sleeping in the streets. So you'd have to help me deal with my housing situation and living conditions and food and everything else before handling the mental health. So what are some of the things that you've been able to do that long-term, that have given long-term solutions for those street families? Because feeding them, as you're saying, just giving them a meal is not enough. You realize that when you get to the ground, you give them a meal today, and then what happens tomorrow? So what are some of the things that you've done or been able to do that have helped some of these families off the streets?
Wow. So the first thing that we did as a street family, as a street ministry, is to make sure that we were able to get a group of them, because there are quite a number. There are more than 100 families in the streets currently. Yes, it's a big number of them. So just getting just getting a number of them and sharing, spreading the love of God, which of course as a ministry was major for us, you know, because there are other organizations that come to them, but for us, we had to have the spiritual part of it, for them to understand that we are here because of the love of God.
Yes.
And now once they understand that, we created a group of people who were trained. We came up with a discipleship manual for them that was translated to just be simple enough for them to understand what salvation is about, what is God, what is receiving Christ, what it looks like to actually be a born-again believer. And now from there, we felt that this would help us to be able to implement other principles of the kingdom of God to them. And they would be able to understand better once they had that kind of a basis. So pulling them into church, and even for those who were not able to go the whole distance up to where Fortress Assembly is, we would always emphasize that find a church near you. You know, we would recommend churches around where they stay, that please make sure that you find a brethren, a congregation whereby you fit, somewhere that is near you, so that you're covered. You know, there's that warmth of people who are like-minded, people who can take care of you, and people who you can always reach out to first. So that was the first thing we did. And the second thing we did is to identify their passions. So we were able to know that this person has a passion for the arts. We had ladies who can weave, ladies who have an interest in knitting and doing saloon work, and the gents who play football, you know, athletes and guys who are actually interested in going back to school and learning a skill. And now from there we are able to know if this person actually wants to do mechanical engineering, where can we connect them to for classes? If this person wants to have their own salon, where can they start? And so we started some of these projects, buying knitting materials for those who can knit to start. We've been able to establish a few businesses for them. So guys who can vend fruits in town, so that they're able to just save something for themselves and get off the streets. Especially those of them who have young babies, we make sure that we are able to know what can this person do, because they all have interests. And not to shove down our ideas about what they should do, but presenting them with a scenario. What do you want to do? How can I help you? So that it's coming from them. And when it's coming from them, we are able to work with them based on what their passion is. Yes.
Wow, you know, as you're speaking, I've just remembered the story of the Good Samaritan, because most of us see these street kids. Some of them even come running to us, Auntie, buy me something, buy me lunch, but then we just pass by them. Some even come to church sometimes, or when we go out for the crusades and outreach programs, they come to us. But you guys have been able to not pass, you know, the bleeding man, like the Levite and the other people who passed. But you've been able to offer a hand, you know, and help them out of their living conditions. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. So let's talk about substance use amongst street families, because I think every time somebody thinks or mentions a street kid, the first thing that comes to someone's mind is a child who's in tattered clothes and they're having glue, or they're smoking something, you know, and they're violent. And I know it's not always like that, but I think that's the picture that has been painted. So my question to you would be, have you encountered some of these cases where you're trying to help a street kid or a street family, but then you realize they're into substance use? So you helping them, you have to deal with that substance use, because it hinders you from, you know, somebody said in one of the shows that substance use and crime are very related, because when somebody is under the influence, they might commit petty crimes. So now you're here, you're trying to help somebody out of their condition. You want them off the streets, but even after giving them all these options, you're not able to help them because of their substance use. Have you encountered such cases, and how have you been able to deal with them?
Yeah, so I think for substance use disorders, this has been the biggest of our challenge.
Yes.
Of all the challenges, this one is major.
Yeah.
It's a challenge that is a thorn in the flesh, to say, for the ministry.
Yeah.
Because these guys need something to survive.
Yeah.
First of all, they live in very dehumanizing conditions.
Yeah.
So for them to be able to cope, and they say this very frankly, when we interact, you will hear statements like, I have to take this to be able to process what is happening to me.
Yeah.
These are orphans.
Yeah.
These are people who've come from very hard conditions in their family, so they had to get away. These are people who've been chased away by relatives, maybe after the passing of a parent or something like that. So these are guys who are coming from a very heavy background. Okay. And for them, coming into the street is coming into contact with another heavy background. Yeah. And so for them to be able to rationalize things, they cope by using.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's a big thing.
Use is a coping mechanism
yes,
for them.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's a coping mechanism for them. In fact, anytime there is an issue in the streets or in amongst them, you automatically know that you're gonna have to deal with a few of these issues about somebody who's used, and it's gone out of hand. And we've been able to establish that this is something that is very, very major. Yeah. It's a coping mechanism for them, first of all, but secondly, it's also a source of income. Yeah. You'll find peddlers in amongst them, and this is how they get money. Oh, yes, okay. So you'll find that this is their business. This is how they are able to get a few coins here and there. They are easier to use in terms of what we were able to gather is that even businesses around and guys who want to use around the community use them for transportation. Oh, no. Yes, for transportation and just peddling around the town. Yeah. So these are who are viewed as easier to ferry these kinds of substances. So it's a major issue. Yeah. This person, for them, it's a place to be able to cope. Yeah. But now at that point, they are not themselves. Yes. There is no help that you can offer this person at that particular point that can actually get to them. It creates a wall. In fact, when you look at them, even physically, there is a block. Yeah. You can meet somebody who you've been with a whole year, and at that point, they don't even recognize you. Oh, and it numbs them. It numbs, especially during scenarios like maybe one of them has passed away, or somebody is going through something in their personal lives, or even the rainy season. Just any condition that presents itself that is hard for them, you will find that they go onto using full blown, and it's a big thing. Yeah. And now we've been trying to work with them. Yeah. Just to encourage them that they don't need it. They don't need it. It's not something that they need to be able to cope. And it helps that we try and alleviate their conditions so that now they are not thinking about the food, they are not thinking about clothes, and those who want to, we are finding them jobs, those who are able to work and who are willing to work, so that now when their conditions are, have been, when we've tried and pacified their conditions, they're not coming from a place of I have to use to be able to cope. Yeah. So now them feeling that they have a family that they can always call Pastor Mary and the rest of the team. We have a team of guys who've been very supportive to them. Yes. And they know that if I call up Uncle Sam, for example, he'll be here if I have an issue. Yeah. If I call Dennis will be here if I have an issue. Yeah. And that they know we are here for them. Yeah. They are not alone in whatever they are dealing with. And they know that if I have a situation at home, I have somebody who can help me through. So I don't have to use to cope. I actually have a family and people who care for me. Wow. So this trust and just bonding with them as a family has been very, very major. In fact, the trust and the rapport we've created with them has been above everything, the biggest help for us. Yeah. Because now they view us as family and they view us as not just there for short term, you know, and for any personal gains. We are actually genuinely interested in seeing them grow and develop. Gradually now you see that they start to change, and that somebody is willing even to seek external help. So we've also been reaching out to government agencies. We have a couple of them that have gone to rehab. We actually have 3 of them right now in rehab. So especially for the cases that are far gone, and you see this is a very dire need for rehabilitation. We just reach out to organizations that can fund, so that they go and they get the help they need professionally. We know there is what we bring in as a ministry in terms of spiritually, family-wise, but we embrace a lot professional help because we know that they also need it.
Wow, amazing. I think what I'm getting from this conversation, and it has repeated over every other conversation we've had at Convo, is that substance use disorders are not just, they're not illnesses like any other. You know, like when you get pneumonia, you know that it's because there's a cause, there's a causative organism, you need to remove that. But for substance use disorders, most of the time it's a coping mechanism. So you have to find the underlying issue, sort that out, and then now we can deal with the addiction. So I like the bit where you say that you have to alleviate their condition. So that they can stop thinking about it. They don't have to think about food, where to sleep, so that now you can help them out of their substance use. Wow, that's amazing. And then I like the bit about embracing professional help, because I think the challenge we've had in the past is that we've seen scenarios where we think, now that we've brought them to church, that should be enough for them. Now that we are praying for them, we are giving them this and this, and we are reading the word to them, that should be enough to help them out of that situation. So I like that you guys embrace the professional bit, and we've been encouraging that even in the church community.
Yes, sure.
Now let's talk about, you know, when you talk about street families, you're talking about a whole family. There's a mother involved, there's a child or children, there's a father probably, and then maybe some came and they are orphans, and then they're getting the family in the street. That happens, right?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
A lot.
So let's talk about the challenges you've had while dealing with these street families. Some of the things that you'd say were really challenging for you as a ministry when you're dealing with them.
I think the biggest challenge, of course, as I had mentioned earlier, is the SUDs. But we've also had major challenges, especially in terms of support. And because different organizations view what we are doing differently. There's those who will feel that we are out for personal gain. So especially where a picture is taken and you're posting, you'll always hear these comments, you know, when you give with your right hand, your left hand should not know what you've done. And there's always comments like this. So there's that place. And I always like to say that we are accountable to the people that offer us support. And this is the main reason why we will post. This is the main reason why we will give feedback of what has been done. It's not necessarily to show the world this is what we are doing. Really. It's not coming from a personal place. It's just accountability. So for us, when we post, when we do videos, when we share on our socials, it's mainly just accountability to the group that supports us. The other thing, which is major as a challenge that we have faced, is getting guys that can come on board. You know, there are organizations that really can work for us. Government institutions, especially because now we are coming from a place of love and compassion and empathy, but coming down to government institutions, you know, the street families is a menace. Street families is a menace, and the intention is to clear them. The intention is to clear them off the streets at whatever cost. So you will find that some of the ways that are used necessarily don't work, and it's been a point of concern for us, because empathy and love is rooted in this ministry. For us, that the person is okay, that we are able to reach them, it's very key for us. So But now when you find organizations that can really help, but they are of a different opinion of what you do. So it's difficult to bring them on board, but yet they carry what can actually link us up to bring these guys help. So that has been a challenge. But also linking these people back with their families is another challenge. Because at the end of the day, reconciliation also matters. Because if this person ran away from their home, everybody belongs to a family. And you want to be able to make sure that even as you're offering this person help, there's also reconciliation so that they are also able to go back and deal with what made them leave. If the person left, it's wholesome. It has to be wholesome. So we've been trying to locate parents, we've been trying to locate relatives, and it proves to be a bit difficult. The issue of getting people identification cards, locating where they come from, it's challenging because you want to get these people jobs, you want to get the guys opportunities, but they have to have a background. These are the things that are requested for when you want to get jobs for them, and somebody's asking, this person doesn't have an identification. How do I know where they are coming from? This person doesn't have a home. We've had places that turned down offers. We've reached out to guys who promised jobs and then turned down the offers based solely on the fact that this person doesn't have a place they go home to. And that means that I will not be able to trace them. So these are some of the challenges we've faced, but also the issue of cohabiting in among them, which is major. And as you were saying, it's true that most of these, actually 90% of these families have been created in the streets. These are people who've met in the streets, created families, gotten babies in the streets. So you will find that this trend continues to grow and grow, and now you have to bring in on board practitioners who are able to reach them and talk about family planning. And talk about, because automatically this person is not at a place whereby they should be starting a family, you know. And now you find there are so many babies in the streets from these families, and now you have to start educating them that don't go the family way until you're ready for it. This is what it means to have a family, you know, and just educating them around that.
Wow. So now that when we talk about street families, I know it's not all of them who use substances. Probably there's a percentage that doesn't use. And we say that some of them use because it's a coping mechanism. So the ones who don't use, how do they cope with such harsh environments?
That's also an interesting question, because whereas the majority do use, the small percentage that doesn't use is either out of two things. Those who have been able to overcome the substance use disorders, but also there is a portion of those who go into other coping mechanisms, and one of these is petty crime. Because now these are people who prefer to go the crime way. So you will find cases of snatching of phones, pickpocketing, breaking cars along the market areas, you know, such kinds, and even at night, just snatching bags. Now these are people who, these are some of the guys and ladies who've preferred, and even prostitution. So these are also other of the coping mechanisms, because remember, the main thing for them is to alleviate what they are feeling. Is to cope from what they are feeling. So whereas somebody will decide, let me use let's say bang or something else, somebody else will, so that I'm not able to feel the cold of the night, or so that I'm not thinking about my baby and not having food. Somebody else will be thinking, so that I'm able to get this food, let me steal a bag, let me snatch a phone. So these are other coping mechanisms for them. So they get into petty crime. It's also another challenge we've had, because now we get reports from the police and from other social work offices that talk about, now we have to find a way to tone down the activity that is happening in the streets, because we have too many cases of pickpocketing, we have too many cases of guys who've been held at knife you know, to release whatever they have. And these are some of the other ways that they go into prostitution also. It's major, especially for the ladies. And this is also how some of these families come into being. So the ladies will go out without any knowledge and just decide to go the prostitution way to fend for their young ones, but then end up into diseases and more babies in the streets. Yes.
Wow. I think one comment that I had, I've had it over and over when you deal with mental health and mental illnesses, is that most people give up on people who are struggling with these mental illnesses and substance use disorders because of the petty crimes. So you find somebody who was willing to help, but then that person they're helping stole from them, and then now they give up on them. But I want you to talk to us about, I think there's an attitude we need to carry as the church community when you're dealing with these cases. Please help us understand, how are you able, I'm sure some of them have done things to you that you know you felt like, I want to give up on them, or what's the point? I'm helping somebody who doesn't want to be helped. So I want you to talk to us about the attitude we should carry when you're helping such families and such children.
Sure. And attitude and the state of your heart when you're going into something like this is very key. When we talk about the God initiative, which is Imana initiative, you have to carry the mind of God, just like you were saying, like what would Jesus do in this kind of a scenario? And now even to bring it to us, like God gave his very best for us, you know, at a point whereby we deserved death. That is what we deserved. And he gave his very best for us. And now when you talk about the love of God into the streets, you have to carry this mentality that the kind of love you're bringing to these people is a love that surpasses all. That it's devoid, even as a person, that you know that you're forgiven for all your past and former sins by God, despite what you do, that he loves you anyway. And this is the mentality that this person, even at the place where they are, we love them. You know, even with repeat offenses, even with people who go to rehab and then go back into using, you know, they relapse, and the love of God always has to be the constant, and you have to be able to mirror the love of God, that if they were to be asked, what does the love of God look like, they would be able to point at you and say, this is how the love of God looks like. That you'll be able to love on them. So you'll find us hanging out with them in the streets. And every now and then I'll be in town, I just look for them, we talk, just get to know where they are. And you know, and just them knowing that they don't have to do anything for me to accept them. I already love them. I love them, I accept them. They are okay the way they are. I don't judge where they are. I just want to see them getting to the better versions of themselves every day. So we don't have any judgmental attitude around them. We don't even have any expectations per se. We just want them to bring themselves to that point whereby they are walking towards bettering themselves. It's not, we don't force it down their throats at all. We just go step by step so that they are able to come through the process by themselves. And this is very important, but mirroring the love of God. For them to see, this is what the love of, when we talk about the love of God to them, they need to be able to see it from us firsthand. So this is the basis of all, the love of God. So with this now, you're able to deal with everything that comes. And the beautiful thing is that gradually you start to see the change. You start to see the change that a month, 2 months later, 3 months later, you begin to realize this person is actually, there's an impact in their lives to what I'm saying, to what we've been doing. And seeing them come this journey by themselves, by their own understanding, by being able to relate with what you're teaching them, it's just the most beautiful thing. Yes.
Wow. So you don't go, you know, you don't love them with strings attached.
No.
You don't go giving them conditions. You're like, I'm going to give you 3 months. If you don't change, I'm giving up on you. Or if they relapse, you don't tell them, now I've tried all I can, and then you're not getting the help you need. So you give up. Wow, I like that. Now let's talk about when we talk about mental health and substance use disorders, I know those two things are related there because as you said, these people try to cope and the way they cope is what's wrong,
yes.
you know, because they're coping with something that's harming them. So maybe help us understand the relationship between the mental health, their mental health, and their, you know, the mental health as a result of they're not living in a condition where they're able to even take care of themselves. And then the relationship between that and the substance use disorders.
So there's a very big, it's actually directly correlative when you talk about substance use disorders and mental health, because one affects the other.
Yes.
And when you talk about mental health and now the street families or a person living in the streets, and now you look at the conditions that surround them, you will realize that, let me give a practical example.
Yes.
Anytime the rainy season is here,
Yeah.
we are prepared to deal with a few more challenges.
Okay.
Because remember, the basis of the street is that this person has been dehumanized. They lack the most basic of what a human being should have. This is clothing, this is food, this is shelter. And now even socially, education, they don't have, they're stigmatized. So this person has actually been dehumanized. So now this person coming into a place whereby anything that aggravates past that point, you will see a shift to the negative. So every time there has been, the rainy season has come, we know we are going to have a problem, because this person is thinking about not only do I not have a roof over my head, now I have to find a shelter that will accommodate me in the rain and in the cold. And now we have cases of some of them drowning out of the substance use disorder. You will hear that, you know, these guys were just walking, they decided to cross a river, they had used, and the river just swept them. And you will hear cases of now a child is sick, or now this person has pneumonia. We actually have some of them who are dealing with asthma in the streets because of the cold. So now, anytime that situation aggravates, you will see that there is a change to the negative. And now this goes to show that the state of their mental health is affecting. It's affecting. You will find that they tend to use more around when there is an aggravated situation, especially maybe when they've been rounded up by cops or the city council. You will automatically realize a shift that the next week you'll find they're using more because they need to numb. There's something extra that has come that they need to numb. So now you see that the state of where they are mentally is affecting how they are using. And then you'll also realize that somebody who's gotten a job opportunity begins to have a sense of responsibility, that now he begins to realize, I can't use, I'm working. This is not acceptable in the environment I am in. So now they are making an effort to quit. And so I believe that mental health and substance use disorders are it's correlative, very highly correlative. And once you're able to deal with one, you're actually dealing with the other.
It's true. Because one is like it's the roots, and then what you're seeing outward is, you know, the leaves and the stems. So you have to deal with the underlying cause first. And I think understanding that helps us not judge them. Because anytime you see a street kid, you're thinking, why is this child using? Why can't they, you know, just stop using? But then you realize they're actually using because they can't cope. They can't cope with what's happening in their lives. Now, I want you to talk to somebody who is probably in church, or not even as part of a church community, but has been wanting to do something for these kids in their community they are in. Or not just for the kids, for somebody who is struggling with a substance use disorder. Somebody feels compassion, but they don't know where to start, because I think a lot of us have a challenge with starting. You know, we have the idea, we may have it written down on paper, we have planned, but then we don't know how to start. We don't know who to reach out to in case we need support. We don't know how to go about it, you know. So I wanted to help somebody who has a desire in their heart, or even a church that has been desired to have this kind of an arm of ministry that helps out and reaches out to kids or families that are struggling, but they don't know where to start. What would their advice be?
Wow, I think the main thing that I would advise them to do is to start. It's the it's the most important step to take.
Yes.
Once you have started, the other process just comes naturally. There's something about starting that gives you the longevity to follow through with whatever you've started on. So if you've been desiring as a church or as a group or even as an individual to just reach out to the society, there is space. There's space for everybody for anyone who wants to begin to do this kind of work. As the statistics have put it, surely 35 million people, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That goes to show that we need more workers in the field. This is to show that your place is there. Just reach out. The easiest way to go about it is to reach out to your nearest neighborhood. This is your place of comfort. These are people who can relate with you. These are people you are able to follow up on. So a church, as a church, reaching out to your community is even a way of giving back. This is how we have impact. So just start, have it in mind, envision, do a map, go map around where you want to start. This is how we did, how we started the street ministry. We were able to identify this is where they stay. These are their age groups, this is what they do, and now we were able to see how to go about helping them. So just do your research, get to know your town, get to know the neighborhood, and now develop a strategy. Go into it, and the Lord will see you through. There is a lot of work that needs to be done, and it requires that everybody who has the burden has to be able to step up and meet it. Yes.
So another question, you know, when you're going out to these street families, what are some of the problems one needs to anticipate? Because, you know, there's the issue about mental health, but more specifically, there are issues you handle first before you get to that, of course. You know, there's the issue about food, housing, health. Some are struggling with asthma, they can't get drugs. What are some of the problems that you anticipate so that, you know, as somebody steps out, they know what to deal with?
So those are some of the major issues. You'll also encounter illiteracy. So you have to be able to get down to their level. If you're communicating something in a manner that they're able to understand, you will encounter aggressiveness. And this is a defense and coping mechanism for them. So you have to be able to break that. If you can break the aggression that comes with them meeting a new person, they don't know your intentions, they don't know what you stand for. If you can break the aggression, then you're able to create a rapport with them. But apart from that, you may also encounter some of criminal tendencies. Like the pickpocketing. They may try to swindle you. They are not beyond that. They'll try to connive to just get a coin or two from you. So you can be sure to anticipate something like that, because it's a survival mechanism for them. And they don't know if you're there for sure to stay or just there for that day. So they need to make the most out of that situation at that particular point. But if you're able to, you have to be street smart to deal with them. But the most important thing is to go down to their level. You can never present yourself as high above. You can never present yourself as more knowledgeable, privileged, or better in any capacity. Just present yourself that you're there to help, you're there to love on them, and you're there to make sure that they are getting better as well.
Wow. I'm inspired. You know, I sit here and I'm thinking there's so much work to be done. There are so many people who need to be reached out to and shown the love of God. And I think what you're doing is what Bishop Jim would say, Jesus is in action right now, you know, through you and through Fortress Assembly. So as we wind up, I want you to talk to us about where do you see this street ministry going, you know, long term? Where do you see yourself? What do you hope to achieve in the future for these families?
Wow. I think as the Fortress Assembly and even the vision of the founder of Imana Initiative, who is Pastor Lee Wanja and Apostle Dennis Wambogo, and their vision has always been to empower other people to be able to do. what they do. And I was empowered enough to be able to stand in for Imana together with the other co-workers who we work together with. And I think my biggest vision right now for Imana and the street ministry especially is that the people who we are with right now, I normally call them my pioneers, that they get out of the streets, they just get themselves sorted out in their own places, you know, in their families, and they become ambassadors. That these are the people in the next 5 years will be going back to the streets and preaching now from a place of I was here. I was here. I have encountered whatever you're encountering right now, but I can assure you I am a testimony, so can you also. You are also able to come off the streets. So this is what I envision, that the group we have right now, those who we are working with, to empower them enough to be able even now to go back. You know, they will be empowered enough to stand on their own in society, to be integrated back into society so effortlessly, and you know, do their thing perfectly in society, but also come back now as the ambassadors for Imana Initiative and to carry on. That would mean everything for me.
Wow.
Yes.
I think this is a ministry that has a ripple effect.
Yes.
You raised another person.
Sure.
Wow, amazing. So I wanted to look at that camera because our time is up, but we are grateful that you're here.
Thank you.
You know, and please send our regards to Pastor Lee and Apostle Dennis for the amazing work they're doing. I wanted to give a parting shot. Talk to somebody who is watching us today, struggling with a substance use disorder, or somebody who wants to start this kind of ministry and is touched like I am. Just give your parting shot.
Wow. So first, my regards to my pastors, Apostle Dennis Wambogo and Pastor Lee Wambogo, for the opportunity and even for the training to be able to do something as beautiful as this, to see lives impacted in the street, to take the love of God to the streets. And yeah, for somebody that is watching, you would want to do something like this, please start. Please start. That is the first and most important thing. Go out, start. The society and the world is in need of it. You are a solution to somebody, to somebody in the street, and you starting will be very vital. And even for somebody who's watching and you're in that place of substance use disorders, there is hope for you. You are not far gone. There is hope for you. Also, as well, start by reaching out to somebody that can be able to help you. Reach out to somebody that can be able to guide you through. Reach out for professional help. Talk to somebody about it. The main thing is starting.
Wow, what a conversation. What an opportunity to hear about what Pastor Mary and Fortress Assembly are doing. You know, literally the hands of Jesus reaching out to the community and sharing and spreading the love of God. And as Pastor Jeff says, it is very bad for a Christian to keep dancing in the light. So you're the light of the world. Please go out and shine the light to those who need it. So if you're watching us today and you are struggling with a substance use disorder, feel free to reach out to us. There are numbers on your screen. So feel free to reach out to us because help is available and recovery and healing is possible. So don't suffer alone, don't struggle with your illness alone, don't be convinced that it's not possible to heal from these situations. It's very, very possible. So reach out to us, and thank you for watching us. Again, this is Convo. My name is Frida, and we encourage conversations that matter like the one we had today. So from me, for now, and from Pastor Mary is a shalom. Bye-bye.